Hey everybody, and welcome to the live chat. First of all, I'd like to let everybody know that you can get your questions in there, and also like if you could put, where you live. That would be really good to know because we get lots of people that are chatting here, and it's nice to know where you are in the country or across the world for that matter. So I just want to say hi to everybody. Hopefully you're enjoying your weekend, and we're going to do a few things first to talk about what's happening actually with the auto industry before we get going with the question and answer. So the month of March has ended. We're just 8 days into the month of April. So we're going to go through, what happened. And if you watched or listened last week, I talked about, I thought the Canadian market was going to slow down. We were seeing signs of it in the first couple of months. Now, Dennis DeRosier, a good friend of mine, who's been a guest on my radio show here in Vancouver for many years, sends out a letter every month, basically going over the market. So I'll just sort of go through what he says here. Following a strong start to the year with record sales in January and February, March saw relative flat sales with total units sold dipping approximately 1,000 units compared to last year. So we have had some very strong brands, sales increases. Genesis had a sales increase of 320%. Now, you got to remember, when you sell relatively few cars and you sell a lot more of something, then it looks like a big, big number. So 320% increase. Also, Volvo up 47%, Mitsubishi up 39%, Volkswagen up 31%, Audi up 14%. Double-digit sales. Meanwhile, double-digit losses from Acura down 10%, Hyundai down 12%, Smart down 18%, and Maserati down 38%. So we sold 429,000 units in the first quarter in Canada, and General Motors is back on top as the best-selling brand in Canada, followed by Ford and then FCA. General Motors had a 6% sales increase, Ford dropped 2.5%, and FCA dropped 4.7%. So I was wrong. I thought we were going to start to see a dip in sales and things start to soften, but that's not the case. So people are out there buying cars, and I guess that's good. People are interested in what's going on in the marketplace, and when people are interested, that certainly sells cars, and we've seen that before. As Dennis DeRosier always says, the best way to get people excited, excuse me, is to have new product. The auto industry thrives on three words: product, product, product. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat today, so I'm going to struggle through. I topped up my water here. So yeah, some people have jumped on already, telling us where they are. So Roy Park was first one on. He was on before the show started. Roy, nice to have you here. We have Keen from Halifax. Roy's in Winnipeg, and it's getting warm. Sure. David Cloud says, hey, Zach, how's it going? Hello from Victoria. Monica from Calgary. Computer User 1 from Edmonton. Oscar from Winnipeg. Stefan from Quebec City. I love Quebec City. And first, Camman Dopk, I think, asks, are used, okay, so I guess we're getting into the questions now. Are used Porsches that reliable? Excuse me. With anything, when you buy a used car, you're buying the previous owner. So when you're buying a car from a used car, you're buying the maintenance and the service that has been done on that car. Porsches, in my opinion, are very reliable, but they have to be maintained properly. So if somebody has neglected to maintain the car properly, it could be an issue. But because the cars are made so well, if it's been looked after. So that's why when you buy a Porsche, you often, the best way I describe it is the best way to buy a Porsche is buy the best car you can, the most, like spend the most you can. Buying a cheap one and then trying to fix it up often will be much more expensive in the long run than just saving a little bit more and buying a more expensive car and getting the records, up-to-date service, all of those sorts of things. Buying a one-owner car, all of that kind of stuff. So yes, they can be very reliable. Hey, I just want to let you know, we're going to get back to the questions in a second, if you go to SoundCloud, I take the audio from these Q&As, and I take them and put them into a podcast. So basically you can listen to the audio. So go to SoundCloud and look up Motormouth Canada and you'll find that. Also, those that are following along regularly, you probably know that I got a new car recently. I got a Porsche Cayenne, and I'm selling my Audi A7. So I have this new thing on the website. So you go to motormouth.ca and then you click on Zach's Picks. And if you click on Zach's Picks, there's some cars, and there's some used Porsches. Funny you're talking about that. And if you click down there, you see 2015 Audi A7. That's my personal car. There's a video I did when I first got the car. I reviewed my own car, and that's done. I almost got a couple 100,000 views there. All the information on it. This car has only 28,000 kilometers on it. It's a TDI, which is really quite desirable, especially on the West Coast because fuel prices are so high. It has amazing fuel economy. It's a large, luxury German sedan, of course quattro all-wheel drive. It comes with two sets of tires, winter and summer tires, and those are the 20-inch wheels. It's an S-Line Technic, and if you're interested, go to the bottom, put in your name, your email, and your phone number, and I can get you any information you want. So just to let you know, some people have been asking, Zach, you got a new car? Yeah, I got one. That one is being sold. So if you're not interested in it, that's fine. Maybe somebody you know might be interested in it, so let them know. All right, let's get back to the questions. Grace says, hi, Zach. There's a lot of turbo 4-cylinder engines now. Would you buy a mid-size SUV with a turbo 4 or a traditional V6? What's your preference and why? Maintenance-wise, is it a better bet? I would say that we're starting to see, like, for example, you have the Volvo XC90 and you have the Mazda CX-9, and they both have, well, the Volvo has a turbo and supercharged 4-cylinder, and the Mazda has a turbo 4-cylinder. I'm kind of on a wait and see with this, okay? I think it's going to be interesting to watch as these cars are several years in the marketplace, and there's some people that have put much higher mileage on them than you might, to find out how reliable they've been. And you can go to web forums for for Volvo or for Mazda and find out from people who actually own the cars how they're doing. I think that the turbo 4-cylinders are great in the compacts. Are they a bit much? I don't know. It's going to be hard to say. But if it was my money, to be honest with you, I think they're wonderful vehicles, but probably the V6 is the tried and true and tested engine. And if that's your concern, then that's what you should buy. Tom Chan in South Delta, BC. He says, I've been watching your show since Delta Cable. And then since he got a license. So those that don't know, I started my auto reviewing on Delta Cable, which is kind of like, it's community access TV. I started my broadcasting and doing car reviews on community access TV, kind of like Wayne's World. And yeah, I started down there at Delta Cable, did 8 years worth. The show was called Street Test. We won a couple of national awards for that show, and then I went on to the local TV here in British Columbia, and then the national TV show I do now, and of course here on YouTube. But yeah, that's a long time ago. 1992 was when I started that show. So South Delta, good to have you on. Roy's asking a question. I did test drive the 2018 CX-9 the other day. It was nothing but exceptional. Really impressed with the low-end torque and luxuriousness. I don't even have kids yet, but I want one. Well, I agree with you, and that's the vehicle we're talking about here with the turbo 4-cylinder engine. It gives incredible torque. It's a wonderful car. When we test drove it, my wife and I, and the review is on the channel, we thought it was fantastic. But the question about how reliable are these engines going to be when they're moving a big vehicle like that, we have to wait and see. New user says, I have $20,000 Canadian, and I'm looking for a 4-door automatic all-wheel drive. Any recommendations? Well, new, really limited. You're not really going to have anything for $20,000. Used, I would look for an Impreza, Subaru Impreza. Okay, maybe one that's a couple of years old for $20,000. That is your best bet. Impreza is sold as a sedan and a hatchback. So have a look at that. I apologize. I feel like I'm getting a cold here, so hopefully you don't get it. Monica says, if you had to choose midsize or subcompact SUV, Honda, Ford, or Nissan, midsize or subcompact? Monica, I don't really understand. You're talking about two different things here, midsize or subcompact. I don't know. Roy goes on to say, I love the CX40 review. Volvo doesn't have one yet. Looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, it's a really nice product. There it is there, the new Volvo XC40, and the review just came out this morning, and there seems to be quite a lot of interest in it. It's really nicely done. I mean, Volvo has done some excellent packaging with their cars. The full-size XC90, the XC60, and this one is, I think, the biggest surprise of the bunch for me. And yeah, I think it's going to sell very, very well. Starts at under $40,000, nicely equipped. You can get it for right around $50,000. That's pretty good. White male privilege, mail as in like sending the mail. Hello from Coral Gables, Florida. Please recommend some reliable cars for around 10,000 US dollars. If you're going to spend 10 grand, you buy a Corolla or you buy a Civic. Used. That's it. New user says, hi, I have 20,000 budget. I'm looking for an automatic sedan, 4-door, all-wheel drive. New. I don't think you're going to get a four-door all-wheel drive new for 20,000. You can check Impreza, as I mentioned. Buzzaglow04, hey Zach, I liked your review of the XC40. There it is again. I was debating between this car and the E-Pace. Priorities are driving dynamics and fuel consumption. Should I wait a year or two since it's a new model? Well, it doesn't hurt to wait. Anything new can have some bugs, and you know, Volvo has had issues. If you look at Consumer Reports and JD Power with their head units, I have to say though that the new head unit in this, or the unit that's in this one, seem faster to me. And that's the thing about electronics, is electronics can be upgraded much quicker than other components of the car. Now, driving dynamics, the winner clearly is the E-Pace, okay? This, as I mentioned in my review, is very compliant, a little bit soft. It's a really nice commuter car. It doesn't have any harsh edges. The E-Pace is much more dynamic. When it comes to fuel consumption, whatever you're choosing, both have turbo 4-cylinder engines, and when you put your foot into it and you utilize the torque and the power of a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, that's when the fuel economy suffers. So it really, with these smaller turbocharged engine, comes down to your driving style. But of the two, the E-Pace is the more dynamic. Dave Cloud says, I'm looking for a full-size V6, V8 all-wheel drive vehicle, $50,000 budget. My targets have been changing consistently, looking between a Grand Cherokee V8, Ram 1500, the G80, Lexus LS, used Range Rover Velar. Used Range Rover Velar. I'm not sure how you're going to get a used Range Rover Velar. It just came out. Yeah, you're kind of all over the map there. So you have to really decide what you want. Do you want a truck? Do you want a utility? Do you want a luxury car? So yeah, you have to have a long sit and think with a nice cold beer and think about what you really want. I love the Grand Cherokee. The Ram 1500, if you're talking about the new one, is fantastic. The Infiniti G80 is it's kind of old. It's like, it was the old Hyundai Genesis that's been redone slightly, so that's kind of on the long end. The Lexus LS is a really kind of boring car. And a Range Rover Velar, you're not going to get one used. Russ Freed says, XC40 price, I just mentioned it starts at $39,500. This is the R design, it was $43,700, and then there were some other packages that you don't really have to have. Yeah, I think you want the winter package, which gets you the heated rear seats. But nice vehicle for sure. Somebody's asking, how is the Range Rover Sport 2018? I have several Range Rover Sport videos on the channel. I suggest you go back and look at them, because the Range Rover Sport has not changed in the last few years. Go and check it out. And if you're considering a Range Rover Sport, really consider the TD6 diesel V6. It is fantastic. The torque is amazing, and everybody uses torque. You need torque in an SUV, and from stoplight to stoplight, city traffic, getting out of the pocket, getting moving, torque is your friend, and in that vehicle particularly, I really found it rewarding. Max Power Limited says, go for the HRV. Hi, I have a $20,000 Canadian budget I'm looking for, and you're asking the same question over and over. Joe M says, what are your thoughts on the Jeep Grand Cherokee? I love the Jeep Grand Cherokee. My issue is the price. Man, these things are expensive. Like, they have really gotten expensive. So the Grand Cherokee now, it actually has always, but it really competes with a lot of premium utilities and SUVs. However, the Grand Cherokee is much more capable. It has the ability to go off-road with the air suspension and their all-wheel drive systems that most utilities just cannot. You have to go into a Land Rover or a Range Rover to have the same kind of capability, or to get a Porsche Cayenne with air suspension. So if that gets you going, then Jeep Grand Cherokee is wonderful. And actually has proven to be really quite reliable. I love the product. I think it's nice. For me, it's just kind of getting expensive. Kane says, the audio would be great to listen to the car. It would be more convenient if I could listen to Apple Podcasts. You know what? I started to look into doing it on iTunes, and it made my head hurt what I had to do. So SoundCloud, I put it on SoundCloud for a reason. What we're talking about here is I'm taking the audio from these podcasts and putting them on SoundCloud. And they're really, it's not that big a deal to listen to them there. And the reason why I've done that is for both Android users as well. So that's why it's on there. And I'm an Android user, so I'm kind of biased. Monica says, what's your opinion on CVTs? Now, you're saying CVT engines. The CVT is the transmission, continuously variable transmission. So what's often happening is four-cylinder engines are married, matched, or mated, whatever you want to call it, to continuously variable transmissions. And they do have a bit of a soul-sucking feel to them, especially if the engine isn't particularly big. And the whole reason for this is for fuel economy. I always try to steer people, you know, to products with conventional automatic transmissions. There are a few exceptions. I mean, Subaru makes some great products, and they have a lot of CVTs, and people seem to like them. And their CVTs are in-house. They don't share it with anybody else, and they seem to do a much better job than others. Rick Byers on again this week from Gatineau, one of our former winners. Hey, Zach, are high-tech cars, i.e. the sensors for lane keep warning, having problems with touchless car washes? I have no idea. That's a good question. I do know my backup cameras sometimes, backup sensors have had issues in the past, but I really don't know. A lot of the sensors, like the camera is behind the windshield and the sensors are in behind the grill. Often you'll see where the badge is. The sensors are in behind there, so they are kind of protected. Hot Doggy McRobbie, good name, says, hi from Collingwood. Yeah, hello back to you. 2.8 Duramax Colorado and Canyon. Thoughts, reliable, possible review. I just actually sent an email to General Motors Canada saying, you know, we need some more cars to test drive on the West Coast. And I've been asking for that particular truck in the diesel. I did a review of one of the two, the Colorado, I think it was the Colorado, when it came out with the V6, and I'd love to get my hands on that Duramax. So I'm with you. I would, same thing. Not really ask me, but you want to go to a Chevy or a GMC web forum for trucks, and you just type in web forum GMC trucks and you'll find one. And for every car that's on the road, there is a web forum. So go in there and start reading the comments and ask a few questions, and you'll get some very honest answers pretty quickly. Russ is from New York. Oh, nice to have you on board. Mackie G, yes, natural aspirated is the way to go if you drive many kilometers. Somebody was asking earlier about, you know, getting a turbo 4-cylinder engine or getting, you know, a V6. And I think that, you know, a lot of people are going to agree that if you get a good old, you know, naturally or normally aspirated engine with a V6, it's going to be the way to go. Russ says, do you know if the Civic will be updated for 2019? So the Civic came out 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So basically, in its 4th year, it's going to get a facelift. Or yeah, it could actually be ready for a facelift, but it's not going to be that greatly updated. The one thing they will change is the radio will get a volume knob. because they put it in the CRV, they've put it in other new products, so that is something that you could look forward to. But yeah, you're right. If you look at the model cadence, you're maybe right. It might be in 2019 as a 20 model. Galina says, what's a reasonable sedan driving the city and highway between 2018 Honda Accord Touring, Civic, or Mazda 3? What would you suggest? Well, you've got two different classes of cars here. You've got compact and midsize. And if you can afford the Honda Accord, that's the one to get. A really nice product. So the Mazda 3 is at the end of its life cycle. The Civic, as we just discussed now, is kind of, it been in a couple of years. And the Accord is brand new. And I think, yeah, that is the one. It won North American Car of the Year. It's won all kinds of awards. Gray says, hi, Zach from Vancouver. Nice to have you on board. Pablos is from Poland. Welcome aboard. Terry Tan, hey, Zach, is Honda CRZ 2011 automatic transmission with 26,000 kilometers for 10,000 worth it? Well, the CRZ, what's a CRZ? I'm trying to remember it. It sounds right. I'm going to have to look that up. Excuse me. CRZ. Sometimes, something, yeah, the little hatchback. That's what I thought. Yeah, well, it's a CVT because it's a hybrid. So yeah, I thought I had it right in my head there. All right, CRZ. Let me get back to the question. Now, what I would do, Terry, is go to CanadianBlackBook.com and then look up that vehicle. So you can do this for any product. Go in, look it up, and you'll see if it's fair market value. But that's a pretty rare car because it's a hybrid and they didn't sell very well. Rod says, hey, Motormouth, I'm thinking about buying a Kia Stinger GT Limited. Any advice? I think my advice would be to get to your dealer and order one because I think they're going to be gone. Whatever allocation they get from Korea, probably a few thousand for Canada. They say they can build to meet demand, but yeah, that would be my only advice. I think it's a great car. I think you're going to love it. So there you go. Ji Heng Tong, hey Zach, big fan. Looking at the new Honda hatchback, should I even bother waiting to check out the new Corolla hatchback? Yes, I think if you're not in a rush and you want to just hold off because the new Corolla is coming and the new Corolla hatchback before the end of the year. Now that's still quite a ways away because we're just into the second quarter now of 2018. So yeah, if you're not in a rush, wait and see what's happening with that Corolla. I think it's going to be much, much better than anything we've seen from Toyota in the past from the Corollas. And the thing is, the IM that was the Scion IM and then became the Corolla IM is a great little car. It, however, isn't as dynamic as the Civic hatch, but still a great car. This new one's going to be built on the new Toyota Global platform and great independent rear suspension system, stiffer, and all those sorts of things. So yeah, if you're not in a rush, wait. Dave Cloud, how do you feel about the gas price on the West Coast? I really love V6, V8s, but the gas price is still hiking and it might get a Turbo 4 diesel. Well, here's the thing. I think that people are going to be looking for, okay, let me just back this up. If you were in the market for a new car and you are going to buy something, you want to obviously buy something that's more fuel efficient, especially if you live on the West Coast with high fuel prices, and I don't think they're going to go down dramatically over the next little while. Now, if you're not thinking of buying a new car, do not buy a new car to save money on gas. Do not buy a new car to save money on gas. I hear this all the time. I want to get a new car. Why? Because I want to save money on gas. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You've got to sell your car. You've got to buy a new one. You've got to pay for tax. You've got to pay for licensing. Insurance could be more because it's a newer car. It is a fool's game to think that buying a vehicle that uses less fuel is a way to save money. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Now, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying if you are in the market to buy a car, then really consider something like you're doing a turbo 4-cylinder versus a V6. I think you're talking about the Colorado or the Canyon. I totally agree with you. If I was buying a Colorado or a Canyon, I would buy the diesel myself. Now, Do not buy a new car to save money on gas. Stupid idea. Drive the car you have, pay for the gas. It's still cheaper than buying a new car. William Ozzie says, hello from DC. Nice to have you here. We're getting a few hellos. Basil says, friend in the market for first car 10,000 budget. Dad is saying Accord V6. He is saying WRX hatch. What a shock. Dad wants a big car and you want a fun car. Insurance, reliability, respect for car, community, and manual are the most important factors. Well, I think getting an Accord V6 manual is going to be really hard. I think maybe you're thinking of the Accord Coupe. I did a test drive of the Accord Coupe V6 manual, and that was like a spotted owl, really rare car. And boy, it was great fun to drive. And that video did very well because it was kind of, you know, where do you ever see that? So yeah, you might have to look long and hard to get that. Insurance reliability, I think that I don't know about the insurance, but the reliability, I would put the weight more on the Accord V6. The WRX is certainly going to be fun. The hatch, now we're talking a car that's several years old. So I think I'm kind of agreeing with Dad on this one. If you can get an Accord V6 Coupe manual, have at it. That's a cool car. Don Rogan says, hi from icy Edmonton still. It wasn't icy last night, and I'll tell you why. The Sedans, Henrik and Daniel Sedin retired from the Vancouver Canucks. Their very last game was in Edmonton. I watched it. It brought tears to your eyes. Two of the classiest hockey players of all time played for Vancouver for their entire career. They had a big farewell here on Thursday night, their last home game. It was so electric to watch. Daniel got the overtime winner. And then they went to Edmonton for their very last game. And kudos to the city of Edmonton, to the Edmonton Oilers Hockey Club, and the hockey players and everybody there. First class. Standing ovation. They even gave him a standing ovation when he scored against Edmonton in the shootout. So yeah, icy in Edmonton, warm hearts, good people, and that was great to watch. Getting choked up thinking about the Sedins saying goodbye. Will says, hi Zach, reviewer from Gatineau, welcome aboard. Bonjour, that's all my French, I just want to tell you that. Interested in the 4-cylinder F-Type versus the 4-cylinder Cayman. Heart says Jag, but my head says no because of reliability. Head says Cayman, but heart isn't quite as attracted. All right. I think, yeah, Cayman, absolutely. Your head is right. Your head is right. Follow your head and get the Cayman. Plus, it's a smaller, lighter car, okay? And that car was designed for that engine. The F-Type really was designed for the supercharged 6-cylinder. And then they put that engine in there. Now, I haven't driven it with a 4-cylinder. Others have, and they say it's not that bad. But yeah, I'm a Porsche guy. I'd say Cayman all day long. Greg says, hey, Zach, any word on Jaguar I-Pace pricing in Canada? No, I haven't. I hear it's coming pretty soon, so that's going to be interesting to watch, yeah. You know what? Electric cars are just, they're too expensive for most people, you know, and the thing is that when you get a premium car brand, I think the e-tron, the Audi SUV that's coming towards the end of the year, I think it's starting at $100,000 US. So that gives you kind of an example. Ken Lowe says, hey Zach, thanks for your XC40 review. Lots of talk about it, and we test drove it yesterday and loved it. We ordered it. Perfect for my wife. Awesome, that's from Ken Lowe. So there it is. The review went up today. It's doing quite well. I think you're really going to enjoy it. 3232 eBrick says, hey Zach, if you could have one car for 15 years, what would it be? We are assuming you have an unlimited budget. One car for 15 years would be the car I just got 2 weeks ago. It's the Porsche Cayenne Diesel. Built so well, perfect for a family. It's still a Porsche, beautifully fit. The interior is, every time I get in it, I'm like, this is, you spend the money, you got what you paid for on the inside. It drives beautifully. It's got that diesel engine that's just gonna go and go. Yeah, and here's the news. This car isn't going anywhere. So that nice segue, by the way, into the fact that my existing car, the car I just got rid of, is being sold. So if you go to my website, motormouth.ca, and you go to Zach's Picks, there you see it. It's the 2015 Audi A7 TDI, and there's a review I did of it from a few years ago, video you can watch, and there's all the pictures. So yeah, if you're interested in it, go to my website and look at all of the different stats there. And if you're interested, if you know somebody that's interested, pass it along. So that's the car I sold. The Cayenne has arrived. There it is. And yeah, this one is a keeper. So there you go. I kind of answered your question by what I just did. And we waited, I have to say, you know, to the gang at the Porsche dealer here in Vancouver, I was emailing them all the time. So these cars were sitting and not allowed to be sold because of the TDI Volkswagen scandal, and the Cayenne was caught up in all of that. So they couldn't sell them for over 2 years. So for the last year and a half, when are we getting the car? Is it going to be sold? Can I have this one? And they were great. They said, go down and look at, they were all in a big compound. I think there was 10 or 12 of them. That was the one that had all the features on it. It was not the first choice for color, but I bought the car, not the color, and it had all the features we wanted, and I went and bought the 20-inch wheels for it, yeah, so there you go, that's it, and we'll have that one for a long time. See that, the Audi I showed you, it's 3.5 years old, it's only got 28,000 kilometers on it, so yeah, we don't drive it a lot. Hey Zach, great work. Regular viewer from Toronto. I understand you'll be trying out the Mazda 6 soon. That's true. A couple of weeks I'm going to the test event, or the drive event here in British Columbia up near Vernon. Any idea if Mazda plans to equip the CX-5 with the same 2.5 liter turbo engine? I think it would be great. So that's kind of the engine, the power plant that's in the CX-9. I can't wait to drive in the Mazda 6. Mazda 6 is the best car nobody drives, and I think they're throwing a lot at it to get some attention for this car, and rightfully so. When you've got products like the Stinger we mentioned a moment ago, back in the market now, getting a lot of attention. Mazda trying to get some action going with the Mazda 6. So I have to ask them about the CX-5. When is that coming with the diesel? They keep promising about that. You know, was it Kia or Hyundai? Hyundai has announced that the Santa Fe is coming with a diesel engine, so that will be interesting to drive. And then I'll ask about the 2.5 turbo. Richie Rich says, hi Zach. I know you don't like the 8 and 9-speed transmissions from Honda and Acura, but what do you think of the 10-speed in the Accord? 10-speed in the Accord. 10-speed in the Accord. I don't think, no, the Accord's got a CVT. You're making me think for a second. 10-speed in the Accord. No, I think it's a CVT. Hello from Surrey, longtime fan. Last time you said you only go to the media days at the car show. Not true. I saw you at the 2016 Vancouver show. Was too shy to say hello. Well, you should have said hello. Yeah, I was doing some work down there with ADESA, Richmond Richmond Auto Auction. So yeah, but this year I was down there for the media day, typically. Hobbs Calvin says, do you think they'll ever put a turbo in the Crosstrek? That is the biggest question. So many people want more power in the BRZ, and I think that's going to be addressed with a larger version of that engine. And the Crosstrek, so many people have said they want a turbo. Subaru is holding their ground. They believe they've got the perfect combination of everyday usability and fuel economy. And the Crosstrek does get good fuel economy. I'm with you though. I wish they had like an RS version or something like that with just a little bit more power for people. And I said to them, well, you want to sell more cars or less cars? And they said, well, we want to sell more cars. I think if you came out with a higher performance Crosstrek, it would sell. So you have the one that for people who want economy, but also have the one that people who want to have a little bit of performance. I'm thinking, am I doubting myself? Am I wrong? The Accord's got a CVT. It doesn't have a 10-speed. Okay. I think you're thinking of the Minivan. The Minivan's got a 10-speed. Wassam says, hey Zach, Wassam here from KW, Kitchener-Waterloo. Big fan of your show. Welcome aboard. Ahmed says, hi Zach, we are trying to get a Touareg 2019, or we'll see an Audi brand. Are we getting the Touareg? No. So It looks to me, I don't know all the details on the Touareg because I don't really follow it that closely because it isn't coming to North America. We know that. What they are doing in its place is the Atlas, once again, outsold the Honda Pilot. So the first 3 months of 2018, the Atlas has outsold the Pilot. That's an amazing statement, really, if you think about how Volkswagen has come along. And I mentioned the numbers off the beginning of sales, and Volkswagen's hitting it out of the park with the Tiguan and the Atlas. And they're going to come with a 5-passenger sort of Grand Cherokee sized Atlas, like a sportier, maybe slightly more cropped looking, a little sexier looking. We are not getting the Touareg, but if you look at it, it looks very similar to me, like a 5-passenger Q7, really is what I think it is. John says, what do you think of the 15 Dodge Durango? I love me some Dodge Durango, as we call it in our house, the Badongo. We love the Durango. We had a great family road trip in one. I love it. I think it's a great product. I love the Grand Cherokee. The Durango just adds an extra row of seats. Have at it. With any used product, please get the car inspected by a independent third-party mechanic. Do your research on it. The Pentastar V6 has been proven to be very reliable. Same with the Hemi. And those products in the Chrysler lineup actually do quite well. David Cloud says, also wondering if the stereo is so much better in the luxury cars, Audi, Burmeister, compared to Harman Kardon in Chrysler. I am not, I would never spend the top dollar to get the upgraded stereo. I just wouldn't, because you're fighting against road noise, wind noise, engine noise. A stereo can only do so much in a car. Now, sometimes you get in a car and you're like, wow, that is something special, but not that often. One stereo I really like is the Fender stereo system in the Volkswagen cars, and I like it because it's very pure and clean. So for anybody that knows about audio, it's not over. You know, a lot of times the stereo companies do this really wide separation, this surround sound kind of thing that they mimic in the car. The Fender system is not that way at all. It's very pure and clear audio. I don't think any of these packages are worth it, especially the Burmeister. I mean, in the Porsche, I think it's like 10 or 12 grand. It's crazy. Hey Zach, I just bought a Sienna SE Sport package, traded in my 07 Sienna. What are your thoughts on the Sienna SE package? It gets a new 8-speed and the horsepower is 296. A lot of people go right to the Honda Odyssey. I am the opposite. I am all in on the Sienna. I think I like the Sienna better. I know the Odyssey is a great product and a lot of people love it, and they put it up here as like this, you know, prestige minivan, if there is such a thing. But for everyday drivability, you know what it comes down to for me? The seats. I just find the Toyota seats more comfortable. I just like it more. So yeah, I'm not sure about the exact packaging. I think the SE Sport package is the one that looks really, it's kind of like the man van. It's got the bigger chin spoiler and everything. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So yeah, enjoy it. I think it's a great product. At almost 300 horsepower, have fun. Wasim Sells says, I think about getting a Lexus GS Hybrid. What are your options on them? Should I have anything to worry about? No, I think that's money in the bank. You know, you buy a Lexus and you buy a hybrid, I think it's going to be just fine. You want to make sure you get it inspected yet again, but yeah, yeah, not an issue. The problem is finding one. They didn't sell very well. The GS doesn't sell very well, and the hybrid even less so. In that category of car, it actually has held its value very well. And I think it's not because the car is so desirable, it's just because there were so few sold. So when you go to buy one in the used market, if you want one, you got to pay for it because there's not many out there. Rue says, is the Infiniti Q60 doable for Canadian winters? Well, yeah, it's available with all-wheel drive, and I think that it all comes down to the tires. You put good tires on a modern car. Think about this. 30 years ago, we had rear-wheel drive cars and front-wheel drive cars, and nobody bought winter tires, and we all seemed to get along just fine. Now we have front-wheel drive cars or all-wheel drive cars for the most part. We have traction control, we have stability control, and we have much better tire technology. Use a really good set of winter tires and the gray matter between your ears, and you can get pretty much anywhere in the winter. Mohammed says, hey, Zach, what do you think of the new CX-5? I have a budget of about 30 and I live in Toronto. Well, at $30,000, you're really not going to get, like, here's the thing, I'm going through this process with a family member looking at small utility vehicles, and you really got to get the base model if you're wanting to get a $30,000 utility in Canada. So you're going to get the front wheel drive one, you're going to get the smaller engine, and so on and so on. So yeah, it's a great product. There is a review of the CX-5. I encourage you to go and watch it. Kenneth says, hey Zach, after owning the Mazda 3, which car would you recommend? Mazda 6, Camry, Accord. Priorities are low maintenance, comfort, and mileage. I would say, oh, this is a tough one. The Accord, in my opinion, much nicer interior. The fit and finish in there is, in my opinion, a class above. Camry, though, has the new 8-speed automatic transmission. Yeah, I was doubting myself. The Accord does have a CVT. What am I even thinking about? The Camry has an 8-speed, and the Mazda 6 nobody buys. So for long-term, for low maintenance, comfort, and mileage, I would probably say it's for me, it would be the Camry, I think. Followed, they're all pretty close. I think what you should do is go and drive them all. The reason I'm saying maintenance is because I'm getting stuck on maintenance for the Camry in its favor is that it doesn't have a turbocharged engine. It has a conventional 8-speed, where the Accord has a turbocharged engine and a CVT. So is there a possibility for some issues there? Yes. The Mazda 6 has a good old-fashioned, Skyactiv engine and a 6-speed automatic. So for long-term reliability and maintenance, I think the Accord is the winner. Somebody is asking RAV4 or Subaru Crosstrek. Well, the RAV4 is bigger. Comes to size. What size do you need? One, so the Subaru Crosstrek, sort of, there's the subcompact utilities and the compact utilities. So this would be like the HR-V from Honda, the CR-V and the RAV4, and the Crosstrek sits right in the middle there. It's an in-betweener. So I think it really comes down to what your size priority is. Both of them are good products. Ruck Monster says, Volvo XC60 or Audi Q5? Audi Q5. Russ says, what questions would you like us to ask? What am I having for dinner? I'm joking. All right, so let's jump ahead here. Oh, it's a lot of questions I got to get to. A lot of questions. Thanks to everybody for getting them in here. All right. Well, we got a lot of questions to go to. Coke or Pepsi? Oh, my wife worked for Pepsi for many, many years, so I'm going to have to say Pepsi. What's your opinion on ceramic coating on cars? Worth getting or a ripoff? Ripoff. What diesel vehicle did you get? I just went through that. It's the Cayenne. Jay says, hey, Zach, which small compact car offers best value? Don't want to spend a lot of money, just need a commuter car. I would say if you don't care about anything other than good, solid transportation and you just want a good commuter car, buy a Corolla. Absolutely. It's going to work. You're going to get good mileage. It's roomy. It's comfortable. It's got everything you're going to want in it. Is it fun and exciting? No. Is it going to do everything you want? Yep. Bass and treble clef. I like that. That's clever. What made you decide to go with a Cayenne and away from a sedan? Got a family and my wife is encouraging me to get rid of my 3 Series wagon and get something bigger. Thoughts on fun family cars? All right. I got to go through a little bit of history here. We have had, we had 5 BMWs. We had an X5. Utility was our first utility vehicle. Then we got the Cayenne, an older Cayenne. We had that for 6 years. And between the X5 and the Cayenne, we had a utility vehicle for 10 years. And so we decided as a family, you know, let's switch it up and get something a little different. And we went into a German luxury sedan again. So we'd had a 2 7 Series and a 5 Series. So we went to the A7 because it ticked all the boxes. Once again, if you go onto the Zach's Picks and watch the video, I go through the reasons why we chose the A7. TDI engine, hatchback design, big, nice car to drive. All of those things. And it's just an absolute joy to drive on a long trip. If you want to drive across the country, the 2 cars I would pick, an Audi A7 or a Porsche Panamera or a 911 Turbo S. But anyway, So we did that for the last 3.5 years, but we all kind of agreed in the family that our favorite vehicle that we ever had, my wife and I, the kids and everything, was the Cayenne. So when we had the chance to get the very last Cayenne diesel, they're not going to be sold again, we jumped on the opportunity. So I understand what you're going through. And I mentioned this in the Volvo XC60, and I said this is tuned to appeal to a wide group of people, and women will really like the drive and like the high seating position. And some people wrote in the comments, come on, Zach, it's not targeted at women, it's for everybody. And here's the thing. Women are the major driving forces in family decisions. Any dude that's married that's watching this is going, you got that right. You got to get it past the gatekeeper. And if she says she wants to buy a utility instead of driving a 3 Series wagon, I guarantee you will be getting a utility, because that's the way it works. And it's really, there's some utilities that are actually pretty fun to drive now. But the trend is away from cars, and we have this keeping up with the Joneses. Everybody's got a utility vehicle, then everybody wants a utility vehicle. So if your friends and family have utilities and your wife sees them and she wants one, and that's just the trend and everybody's getting one, well, everybody gets caught up in it. And I think that's what's happening for the most part. And you know what? They are great family. These are great family style vehicles. Well, there it is. There's the old car there. So there are my thoughts on that. So yes, it's going to be a discussion in your family to figure out what you're going to get. Elizabeth Long says, hello. Elizabeth, welcome to all the dudes here. Ryan says, hey, Zach, I'm interested in silver wax product. Have you tried them? Especially the nano coating. So I have used some of their products. We did some segments with silver wax on driving television based in Quebec City, a Canadian company, which I love. I think that's great. So yeah, give it a shot. We had the people, the top people from Quebec came out and did the segments with us. And yeah, it's good stuff. So give it a shot. I have no issue. The other one I like is Autoglim, the UK company. But silver wax is Canadian. I like that. Russ Alex Harley. What would you recommend for a couple soon-to-be empty nesters have a budget of US $30,000? Reliability is important as well as fuel economy. Thinking of an SUV. Well, back to my question before, what size of SUV do you want? If you're thinking about reliability and fuel economy, I go, and people beat me up and say, how can you recommend that car? It's so boring. It's the RAV4. Buy a RAV4. For $30,000 US, not an issue. Drive it, enjoy it, good fuel economy, great reliability. When you go to sell it, there's going to be people that want it. So that's my answer. Yad says, how about Cadillac ATS? Are those 3.6 and 8 speeds reliable? Well, the 3.6 that's been used for quite a few years in the Cadillac line has been around for a long time. The 8-speed automatic is a ZF box, which has been used by many brands, and they're very good transmissions. What I think that Cadillac suffers from is in-dash, their head units, with the Cadillac user experience. There have been issues with that. I've driven lots of Cadillacs, especially over the last year, and the more I drive them, the more I get used to the Q system. I really actually kind of like it. And I really like the ATS. I like the Turbo 4 though. I think that is the one to get. I think the 3.6 you don't need in that car. That's the one I would get, the Turbo 4. Yeah, somebody else is answering the question about the vehicles to get. The RAV4 or CRV, and I would agree the CRV is a good choice, but for me it would be RAV4. Ryan Moon says, now that you've driven all of them, BMW X1, Jaguar E-Pace, or Volvo XC40, maybe he's asking which one I prefer. I think this is the way I would do it. Is the E-Pace is the driver's car. The X1 is just that little bit smaller, fun to drive. But this is, I think, going to be a big hit because it's kind of like the best all-arounder. Just the packaging is very well done. Hey Zach, with recent gas prices, I'm seriously considering purchasing a diesel for my next vehicle. I was just curious, is there a top tier designation for diesel fuel similar to gasoline? What we have is a situation where you need to have ultra low sulfur diesel fuel. And the good thing is that all of the filling stations, I'm assuming you're writing from the West Coast where we have these very high fuel prices. So yes, you need to just make sure you have ultra low sulfur diesel. And that's what you're going to get at all of the service stations. So yeah, you're fine. There is no top tier diesel fuel. You just need to make sure it's that ultra low sulfur, which you're going to get. So back to my point earlier. Do not buy a new car to save money on fuel. Do not buy a new car to save money on fuel. If you just happen to be in the market to buy a new car anyway, then yes, really consider what kind of vehicle you're going to get. But to buy a new car to save money, you don't save money. You spend a whole lot of money to feel good at the pump. But the reality is it costs you thousands of dollars to buy that new car. Don't do it. If you have a car and it's using more fuel, stick with it unless you're really in the market. Mazda 3 or Elantra Sport? I'm going to say Elantra Sport. I was really, not the hatch, not the GT, the sedan. I was really smitten with that car. Monica says, what are the main differences between the CRV and the HRV? Well, it's really size, I think. You're going to get a much bigger vehicle with the CRV. The HRV, from what I understand, I don't have 100% confirmation on this, does not have yet in the stereo Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So double check that with the dealership. So those are some main differences. The size of the engine, of course, is smaller in the HRV, and you sit up higher with the CRV. But it really comes down to size. If you don't need the footprint of the CRV, the HRV is a fine product. Hey Zach, do you know if Infiniti is updating the infotainment screen? I would like to get the Q60, but not with the current nav. I think that Nissan Infiniti have to do a major overhaul with all of their head units. The graphics don't look good. The backup cameras are really poor quality. They have the around view. They were one of the first to do that, and it's great that they have it, but the quality, the image quality is terrible. And a lot of their head units really are old and kind of clunky through both companies, Infiniti and Nissan. So that is something they really have to address. I don't have any answer for you specifically on Infiniti, but there you go. I agree. They need to update that. Yeah, Wasim is saying, yes, CRZ was a compact hatch. I figured that out. You know, the one thing is that, you know, somebody says a name of something and you just can't picture what it is when you're thinking about it. Like somebody asked about the 10-speed in the Honda, and now I think I figured it out. With the 2-liter, that's what it is. With the 2-liter in the Accord, the turbo 2-liter, you get the 10-speed. Now it's coming back to me. All right, somebody's asking CRV, CX-5, Volvo XC40, or Tiguan. Which would you pick? Well, I need a little bit more than that. What are you using it for? How many people do you put it in? If you're wanting space, you get the Tiguan. If you're wanting the best handling, I would go CX-5. If you're wanting premium, I'd go Volvo. If you're wanting the best all-rounder, I would go the CRV. And the Tiguan has the option to get you that third row of seats. So I really need to know a little bit more. Custom ordering a car is the only way to buy a car unless it's a commuter car that you really don't care about. I don't know about that. The one thing about people when they go shopping is that they want the car now. Ordering a car, most people don't have patience for it. So that's what dealers kind of know when you walk on to the dealer. It's like, what do you have now? I need to get a car. So that's what typically happens. Norman Shamim says, hey Zach, keep it the good work. I'm having a hard time deciding between Honda Accord 2-liter and Chevy Malibu all-wheel drive. Well, I didn't get the Accord. There you go. It's come back to me now. The 10-speed was at the 2-liter. There you go. Opinion of the 2018 Mazda CX-5. Go watch the review. I did one 2 months ago. It's on the channel. Neil says, friends want to buy a small SUV, has 20K. What do you suggest? She is 55 years old and wants to treat herself. A small SUV. How small? I would suggest 55, you know, if you're just going to be using it for yourself, I would get the Crosstrek, if you can get one for that price used, or the HRV from Honda. But the Crosstrek, I think, would be a great vehicle for that. A lot of retirees love the Subaru Crosstrek. And I'm not saying you're a retiree at 55, but people who are, not in the middle of, everything with kids. Tim says, will the VW Sport Wagon Golf R ever come to Canada? Geez, I'd love to see that. We were in, where were we? We were in Germany, and we were at a dealership. No, we weren't in Germany. We were in Switzerland at the Geneva Auto Show last year, and we got the brand new Golf before it came out to Canada, and they had one in the dealership. We had the car to drive, and we returned it back to the dealership, and I saw the car in the showroom, and it's like, oh, just gorgeous. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fun. Vinay R says, hey Zach, why is BC the province where you can buy Mitsubishi Delica? Do you know what the restrictions are bringing it to other provinces? This isn't a BC thing. So for those that don't know, in the province of British Columbia, there are a lot of ex-Japanese right-hand drive cars that have been brought into the country. So what happens is, in Japan, as cars get older, the taxes to license them go way up. So this is a way of forcing people to drive newer cars, cleaner cars, more fuel efficient cars. For example, the best selling car in Japan is the Prius. So when you have an entire country and their best selling car is a Prius, you're really reducing the amount of fuel and emissions. So that's one way of doing it. And that's one of the things that we could do in North America. Instead of putting a carbon tax on, raise the price to license older cars and get people into newer, cleaner cars. So that's what they do in Japan. So in Japan, what's happening is as the cars age out and people don't want to spend the extra money, they get shipped to other parts of the world. And a lot of, not a lot, but there's some people are importing them to Canada here on the West Coast because they get shipped in obviously here. And there are quite a few of them, all these little mini vans, these little mini buses, little mini trucks, and that Mitsubishi is certainly a favorite for people that like to go camping, similar to the Volkswagen Westphalia. But there is no restriction on bringing them into other provinces. The restriction is that the cars have to be 15 years or older in order to come into Canada, not having to meet the restrictions for things like bumpers, emissions. So cars that are 15 years or older don't have to meet the current Canadian standards. That's why you're seeing them on the road. So it works out nicely. In Japan, they're wanting to get rid of them. In Canada, if they're over 15 years old, they can come in. So this would also be great if you're looking for a high-end car, like say an M5 or something from Germany, that maybe a special model wasn't made in North America. You could bring it in if it was 15 years or older. So that's what's happening. You can license it in any province. Frank says, I can't decide between an Audi Q5 or the XC60. Worried about reliability of the Volvo. Which one do you prefer? I already said earlier, I think the Q5 is the one that I would pick. Jack Castle says, this has nothing to do with cars, but are you an NFL fan? If not, what are your thoughts on this Stanley Cup's playoff? Oh, you know what we're doing tonight after dinner? We're doing our family hockey pool. So my wife and I and our two boys, we throw in $10 each, and then we get to pick our teams. And I tell you what, we did it last year, and we watched so much playoff hockey because we all had skin in the game. It was a lot of fun. So who's going to win the playoffs? I sure would love a Canadian team to go deep. Wouldn't that be fun? But I think that Nashville is looking pretty good. No, you're mostly a car guy. Thoughts on the Ranger versus the Tacoma? Well, the Tacoma is the gold standard in the mid-size pickup truck space. The Ranger, I haven't driven it yet. So it's not coming until about a year from now. So we still have another year to wait. Are you talking about older Rangers? But the new one, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. All About Vehicle says, hey Zach, about an 05 Chevy Trailblazer two-wheel drive 4.2 liter Vortex i6 inline six-cylinder for $3,500. Might suck gas, but it's awesome and can haul a lot. Well, you got to think about your overall average cost. You paid $3,500 for the vehicle. It uses gas. Is it a wash at the end of the day? Probably. Hey Zach, first-time manual driver. Any suggestions on cars to buy, used or brand new? I'm not sure. You need to give me more information on that. What size, what price? Well, prices of fuel in Canada will go up. Here in Poland, it's $1.65 Canadian per liter. Well, it's $1.55 a liter on the West Coast, $1.55. So if you're listening in Winnipeg or any parts of the country, it is getting expensive. And we have a government that doesn't want to push the pipeline through. I think what's going to happen, here's my prediction. Fuel prices will continue to go up on the West Coast. people are going to get pissed off because they driving from Langley and Chilliwack and Abbotsford and Surrey in and out of the city every day. Their monthly costs are going to go up because they're spending so much on fuel, and they're going to demand that something's done about it. And one way to do it is to get the pipeline put through from Alberta to British Columbia. By the way, here's my thoughts on the pipeline. Until about 4 or 5 years ago, when this pipeline was, the Trans Mountain Pipeline was announced, nobody even knew that there was one there already. I guarantee you 99.9% of the people didn't know there was already a pipeline that went from Edmonton to the West Coast here. They're wanting to double it. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm not a fan of direct injection. I know Toyota has port and direct injection. Who else makes port and direct injection motors? Off the top of my head, I can't remember specifically, but this is a trend that's starting to move across the industry because there is an issue with carbon buildup. So they can put the direct injection to get a better spark under heavy loads, and then under light loads they can do the port injection. It's better for cleaning the system, and it makes the vehicle much smoother at idle. So this is something I think is going to be copied. Kudos to Lexus and Toyota for doing this. I think it's going to be going through the industry, but it's going to take a while for that to spread. So other people are in here. Yeah, I got it wrong. The 2-liter Accord is the 10-speed. The 1.5 is the CVT. I had a brain fart there. What's your opinion on the Chevy Traverse? It seems to be one of the best choices in the large mid-size crossover. I'm here to tell you, I've said this over. Regular viewers of this channel will know I have said it over and over. General Motors is doing a lot right. A lot of their vehicles are very good. They are making good quality cars. Their in-dash tech that they have in their cars is so simple and easy to use. They've got more technology than most of the competition. They've got LTE, 4G hotspot. They've got OnStar. They've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, easy to use. The packaging on those mid-size utilities, whether it's the Acadia or the Traverse or any of them, the Buick Enclave, they're very well done. And it's showing up now. General Motors now is the best-selling car brand in the country. People are starting to realize that the General Motors of old is gone, and the new products really are much, much better. So on that, I just want to say thanks to everybody that came on board. Once again, if you want to go to SoundCloud, that's where we do the audio version of this, and you can, if you want to listen to it as a podcast, if you're driving to work one day or what have you. And don't forget, you can go to my website, motormouth.ca, and click on Zach's Picks, and you can have a look at the different cars there. And my Audi A7 is for sale right now, and there it is. So click on that and have a look at it. That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'll do it next week. I'm going on the road. Oh, I forgot to mention. I leave Tuesday, and I'm going to North Carolina to drive the all-new Jetta. So there will be a review of the all-new Jetta later this week, so watch for that. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I'll speak to you next time.